Fellowship project consultant. Mary, so glad that you're here. Welcome from the North Dallas area. Ryan, Pine Hills Church, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Glad you're here, Ryan. Hope you're doing well today. Pete is from North Point Church in Fitchburg. Ruth from Bible Church of the Lakes in Austin, Texas. Excellent. I had a great call with a good friend of mine in Austin, Texas a couple days ago. He's a pastor there as well. Greenwood UM Church is joining. Welcome into the call, everyone. And as I've said a few times, as you trickle into the call, feel free to open up that chat window on the bottom right of your screen and share with us where you're from, what church you're with, maybe your role at the church, if you want to share that or not. Get started with the content here in just a minute or two. By way of reminder, the call is going to be recorded. So you can share that with other folks who may have wanted to see it but are missing it. Share it with your team if it's helpful for you. As we go through the content, the structure of this call usually goes something like this. I'll probably share for about 15 minutes or so. I'll just talk fairly briefly about some of the vision and the why behind the New Mover mailing program. And then I'll go to share my screen with you just to walk you through step by step exactly how it works. Showing some of the benefits of it and just kind of sharing some pro tips and tricks on how to get the most out of it. And then my plan is just to kind of hang out here on the call, whether it's for 5 minutes or for 15 or 20 minutes, if y'all have some questions or anything you want to talk about regarding New Mover mailers. I use the word y'all. That's Texas for you all. So just so you Texans feel at home. Just joking. Stacy, welcome. Bob Williams, welcome. So glad that you guys are here. Okay. I'll give it one more minute and then we'll launch into this. I want to make sure to honor all of your time. Okay, and I believe we're not recording quite yet, are we, Matthew? I saw Matthew in the call. And Matthew, I'll throw it into your court, and as soon as I see it starts recording, I will start with this kind of official New Mover spiel. So at your ready, Matthew.
It's recording.
Awesome. It was recording for a while, huh?
Yep. You're good to go.
That's awesome. Thank you, Matthew. Well, let me start with just another official welcome to everybody. I see a lot of churches represented and a lot of names and faces on the call. And so once again, I just want to celebrate that and just say we are so encouraged by your faithful ministry within your church. And if nothing else today, I just pray that you would be so encouraged by the fact that as you just sit in a, kind of a digital meeting room like this, you can look around at, other names and faces and realize that there's other people all over the country who are doing the same kind of work that you're doing. And they're putting in the same, kind of hours and the same kind of attention and intentionality to do something innovative for their church and to help your community reach more people ultimately so that they would come to know the love of Jesus and that their lives would be changed. So thank you for who you are and thank you for what you're doing. Of course, you know this, but this webinar is for our New Mover mailing program. We just want to give you a little bit of the vision behind that. A lot of the logistics and step-by-step how-to as far as how that works, how to get involved with it, and some pro tips and tricks for how that goes. So starting just with some vision behind it, studies show that people are disproportionately more likely to engage or to re-engage with church during seasons of transition. And one of the most prevalent and frequent seasons of transition that people face is when they move. There's wild percentages of the people who they are regular church attenders, and then I want to say it's 40-something%. They will move, and then they just won't go to church, either indefinitely or for a long period of time, just because they moved, and it like that level of a break in rhythm caused them to stop engaging with a local church. And these are folks who very likely, if they got an invite from a church, or if they were connected with someone else relationally quickly enough, they would probably go because they were already in the rhythm of doing that. And we want to just capitalize on that and realize, okay, there's a lot of people who are losing the rhythm of attending church, and there's a lot of churches who are losing people purely because people are moving. And those are people we might already consider, believers or regular church attenders. But then beyond that, you have to think of people who have yet to put their faith in Jesus, and people who have yet to make church attendance a regular rhythm of their life. Even and especially for those folks, a time of a move, again, up there with, I think having a baby is one of them, getting a new job, or unfortunately, but opportunistically as well, when there's a tragedy or some kind of something that goes really wrong in someone's life. There's these seasons of significant transition where they are, again, disproportionately open to engaging or re-engaging with church. So we just want to take advantage of that. And just as far as what the New Mover program is it's a monthly subscription service where, after picking the radius that you want to target in a community, basically every month on an automated basis, on a set it and forget it kind of basis, those people will automatically receive a piece of physical paper mail from your church that's welcoming them to the community. So if you imagine moving to a new community, sometime first 30 to 45 days of when you land there, you would get this piece of direct mail, and it would be from your church, and it would say really whatever messaging you want to be on the card, but something just like, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. So glad you're here. We know that finding a church community can be hard. We would love to just extend an invitation to you. And I think you would be surprised and encouraged by just how meaningful that can be for people. I often think about, even just in my own life, we moved to this new town 8 years ago, my wife and I, and we had a 4-month-old baby at the time, and those kids have grown now. We moved to this town, and it's a pretty small town, and it's one of those areas where it seems like everybody has known each other for a long time, and a lot of people are like related or have grown up here, their whole lives. And I remember one day saying to my wife, it feels like nobody here needs new friends, but we need new friends. And so there's just some natural pain and some tension in that. And what I always want us to realize with a program like the New Mover Mailers is that those are the folks that you're trying to bless with this. And it can mean so much more than just an 8.5 by 5.5 piece of paper in a mailbox. I mean, this can be a lifeline for somebody. This can be a lifeline for a family who's moving in and they feel like, man, nobody here needs new friends, but we need new friends. Everybody else has their place to belong and they have community figured out, but we don't have that yet. We need to figure out a place to belong and to plant roots and to grow. And to figure out, okay, is this place really a home for us? So with that heart behind New Mover Mailers, my plan here is I'm gonna share my screen, and I want to walk us really from, if I'm never heard of this in my life and I'm just learning about it, here's what I'm gonna do to go and get involved and plugged in and potentially sign up for it. So let me present right here one of my tabs. Now you should be seeing, give me a thumbs up if you're seeing this screen. All right, perfect. Looks good. Okay, so here's just outreach.com's website. All you're going to do up here in the top navigation, go to New Mover. And now here, I would love to ask, can somebody volunteer their church's address for us? Just drop it in the chat. I'll give you a few seconds here. Somebody drop their church's address in the chat. I'd love to use a real example as we walk through it. Beautiful. Mary wins. Good job, Mary. I knew I had a good feeling about Mary from Dallas. Okay. We're going to drop in this address, 501 Accent Drive, Plano, Texas. And now here's where a little bit of a pro tip here. You have your option on a mile radius around this address to target. If it's a more rural area, naturally you're going to want to think, let's go a larger radius because there's going to be fewer addresses within that radius. If it's a more maybe densely populated suburban area, you might want to go smaller so you don't get overwhelmed with too many addresses. I'm just going to, without even knowing, I'm just going to do an average of 5 miles. That's a really common average that we see really across the country. And I'm going to press find new movers. Now on the next screen, what you're going to see populate in just a second is a little bit of information here, just some instructions and how to. Click got it. Okay, what you're seeing here is a map that is a 5-mile radius of mailing routes around the address of Mary's church. So awesome. Thank you, Mary, for offering that up. I want to show you a little bit about how this works. If you go over on the right side of the screen here, you see all the data and the numbers that correspond to what you're seeing on the map. So the purplish bluish puzzle piece looking things, those are individual mail routes. And if they're bluish purplish, that means they are selected and included in the mailing. What you can do is you can get hyper specific and customized. And Mary would be better at this than I would because Mary knows her area. She can go in and she can say, okay, let's narrow this down. Let's deselect this and deselect this. You know, we don't have any people over here. Nobody moves over here, so let's not send it there. And you'll notice as I'm selecting and deselecting these mail routes, over on the right side of your screen, those numbers are changing, corresponding to the changes that I'm making. So now if you look at this, with the routes that are selected compared to the routes that are not selected, here's what numbers and costs look like. If you were to send a piece of mail to everybody who moves within this radius every month, the average number of movers you're targeting is 492. That's based just on last year's data, which is the best, most up-to-date data you can really have. And the cost for that is $388.68. Another important number to note is that there was a very popular month last year where 919 people moved. The cost to send it that month would have been that. Now, I just want to go back really quick because that is a large radius. So I'm going to go back, put in the address one more time. But I just want to see what it looks like, you know, if we go super local and we say 2 miles around your address. See what those numbers look like compared to 5 miles. But what I love about this overall is that 9 times out of 10, the numbers are a lot more than people think they are. Like, I don't know about you, but it's pretty wild when you actually see that number and you realize, oh my goodness, 201 families move within 2 miles of your church every month. That's not every year, that's every single month within 2 miles. And again, last year you had a day, or you had a month where 360 people moved. If you keep scrolling down, you can even see a month-by-month breakdown of when people were moving. In November, you had 208. In January, 146. It looks like your biggest month was August with 360 over here, which makes sense when you think about the rhythms of school and work and summer break and all that. Now, here is, I'm hoping this kind of begs maybe a question or some tension in your brain. These two numbers here can be kind of hard to, you know, well, this looks fine, but I don't really want to pay this every month, right? So how do I control against that? Next step, customizability you can put on here is you can just put a cap on what you spend monthly. So go here, click yes, limit the number of postcards I send. Oftentimes, I just recommend to a church, why don't you just put it like right above where you see the top of this line, you know, so if you maybe drag it right there. So then on an average month, you're always guaranteed to hit everybody who's moving. But if for whatever reason you have a really popular month and you don't really want to budget, you know, the margin to pay for a really popular month, just put a cap on it. And then you're guaranteed to never spend more than this amount. Again, every month, it'll usually be closer to this amount, 158. But even on your most popular month, the most you'll spend is 198. So that's just, and fill in the blank for whatever numbers you like and you feel comfortable with. But that's just a good way to say, okay, let's make this a very predictable budget line item. Let's throw $200 at this every month and we will never exceed that. Next step, you can send 1 postcard or 2 postcards per month. So if you click 2, it'll double the price, obviously. But if you select 1, back to the normal single price. This is 2 postcards that will go to the same people. So these are people who have just moved. Option number 1 is they receive 1 postcard, usually within 30 to 45 days of moving. Option number 2 is those same people receive 2 postcards, one being 30 to 45 days after they move. And then about 2 weeks later, they'll receive the second postcard in the sequence. I try to encourage people when they're thinking about, do I want to send 1 or 2? I say, really think through and pray through and try to discern what strategy you feel is best for your targeted community. Like, is it better, not even trying to get anybody to spend more, but say, would you rather send, 100 postcards one time or send 50 postcards 2 times, like to the same group of people? So if you're going to spend the same amount of money, would you rather target the same people twice or target different people once? And there's really no right answer, but just some kind of tips on how to think through that. And the churches that I've seen do the 2 touch point strategy really well, what they do really well is they don't send the same thing twice. A lot of them, they'll do something kind of creative and sequential with the messaging that they send. So the first postcard might be something that's very like indirect and very just focused on trying to be a blessing to the person who moved. It might just be saying something like, hey, welcome. We know moving is stressful. Here's a park near your house that your kids will love, or here's a quick prayer to say to ease the stress of moving, something like that. But they won't even say much about the church. And then the second postcard they send will be a little bit more of a direct, promotion for the church, which I appreciate that. I think there's a ton of different ways to be creative and strategic and very winsome with your messaging in these postcards. Now, the next option is called Jumpstart, or basically how to extend your first month's mailing. This means that the first month you start this subscription service, you can also choose to basically be retroactive and send it also to people who have moved, not just in the last month, but people who have moved within up to the last 6 months. You can see that down here. You can go just 1 month, or you can go all the way up to 6 months in increments of 1 month. So again, just for scale and reference, if you said, let's send it to everybody who has moved in the last 6 months, you're obviously going to add a lot more people. For 2 miles within Mary's address, that's 1,341 people who have moved. Those are families or residences who have moved within the last 6 months. It adds quite a bit to your first month's cost. For some, though, that's worth it, and it's a great strategy to include people who have moved. And for others, they would say, no, we're not ready to commit that budget amount the first month. Or a lot of people will do 3 months prior, or maybe 2 months. So something to think about there. It's a smart move in the sense that people who have lived somewhere only for 6 months, they are still very much in the decision-making process, right? Like still very much in the discernment process on where they're going to plant roots and where they're going to find their sense of belonging. So something to think about, extending your first month's mailing list or not. The last step here is simply choosing a design. This is kind of just the fun part, like look through, and we have so many designs you can pick from, which are just such an easy way to just grab one, click on it and say, yep, let's use this one. Our team will help you customize it to obviously have your info and your name and your blurb on the back, whatever you want to say. Choose that design, and then it'll bring you into a cart. And of course, on the design note too, you can submit your own design as well. That's an option there down way at the bottom of the page. And our team of designers will kind of help you, make sure you have a template for that and get us everything we need so that we can help you guys get everything you need. Now, I know there's things I am forgetting. There's a couple other team members on the call too. Feel free to speak in and jump into that. There's a lot to say and a lot to share, but I also don't want to, do a fire hydrant of content your direction. So with all that being said, at this point, you click add to cart, you go through the checkout process. The setup fee is free, and you get your first month for free. So you really wouldn't even see this monthly cost until the second month that you're doing it. I think I want to stop right there, and I just want to invite you all, I'll kind of leave my screen sharing, and we can bounce back and forth to different pages if anyone has a specific question. But I would just invite all of you now, either in the chat, I see a question there. Thank you, Nancy. Drop in the chat like Nancy is or how Mary is, or feel free to unmute your mic as well. And yeah, any questions or thoughts, would love to answer those. So we'll start with Nancy. Are these people who move into the area from somewhere else, or could it be people who move from one house to another in the area? Great question, Nancy. The answer is the second. So the data that we get in order to make this possible, it's really tied to utility activations. So it could absolutely be someone who moves locally, which can be beneficial or potentially a con, depending on which way you're looking at it. But that's a great question. It's literally just any moves that happen. I don't know that there's a way for us or those companies to exactly tell where they're coming from. How are the mover estimates forecasted? Is it based on real estate vacancies? The mover estimates, the things that I showed you just now, those are based on data from last year's movements. And so ultimately, this year, we find that you can reasonably expect to pay, you can reasonably expect those numbers to be pretty similar to what they were last year. But again, that's where I highly recommend setting a cap on your spending, so that, for these numbers here, the average monthly cost, that's a pretty reasonable average that you can expect. But beyond that, set a cap so you're just never surprised or, frustrated by a crazy large bill. And hopefully, if that doesn't make sense, call me out or unmute and let me know. I see Ceci. If the first month is free, does that cover if you extend your first month mailing list to recent movers in past months? No, great question. It would, yeah, especially if it's a large, extending back a lot. If it was, I would definitely say you should extend back 6 months to get, 1,000 free postcards. Bob Williams, do you have any specific statistics from any churches on their return on investment? Such a good question, Bob. I don't have any specific numbers off the top of my head. I'm wondering if anyone else on the team has anything statistically insightful to share about that. Feel free to speak up. I will say on that question, Bob, I love strategizing with churches to figure out how to make sure it's efficient and effective, because of course, you want it to work, and we want it to work for you guys too. We have no intention for you to pay outreach money for something that doesn't help your church grow the kingdom. A couple pro moves that I see churches do. Number one is simply to track if it's working, quote unquote, working. You get a list emailed to you every month, which is a full report of the names and addresses that these go to. So what I would encourage you to do is take that list and then put it in either a Google Sheet or a document or something somewhere, and create just a side-by-side list with the lists that you might have for your first-time visitors at the, if you have a Connect booth or a first-time visitor table or something like that, or if you have maybe a membership class or a newcomers class, something like that. However you're taking names and tracking people for your normal attendance, take that list and then side by side that with the list of recipients with the new movers, and basically just, create a little system where you're seeing, okay, are we seeing any of these names show up over here on this list? And if you run this program for 6 months and none of these names ever show up here, then we'll just be the first to tell you, yeah, you should definitely cancel it. We don't want you to waste money. And all I have is just anecdotally through relationships with churches who are on it, who are saying, yes, we see people from this list show up on these lists. So we know that it's working. As far as, are you going to see 28% of recipients come? I'm not sure that we have those stats yet. We totally should, and I think we should collect those, and we'll share those with you as we do. Randy said, if we choose the Jumpstart option and the option for the 2 cards, how does that work? Costs. So the Jumpstart option, let me just go back there and just show you what happened there. So as far as Jumpstart goes, if you don't want to Jumpstart, you just select no. Don't extend my first month's mailing. If you do want to Jumpstart, select yes. And then the cost is going to be down here based on how many months of Jumpstart you choose. If you go back 6 months, and this is within 2 miles of Mary's Church in Plano, Texas. So within the last 6 months, within 2 miles, this number of residences have been newly moved into. And so that month when you start would cost this amount. And again, that's customizable. Go back to 1 month or 2 months. That was $576 in the last 2 months. And that cost would be that. And that's just a one-time, like that's just within the first month where that cost would happen. And then for, if you hit the twice a month, it's just double of what the other one is. So to send one is $158. If you want to do the, the multi-touch twice a month, it's just $158 times 2. So some math there. 316? Is that it? We just Jumpstart. Hopefully that's helpful, Randy. Great question. Ryan, can you share how you gather your data? Is it through economic development offices, moving companies, other? I'd like to hear more how, where you get these contacts. That's a really good question, Ryan. I know I can answer semi-intelligently about that, and also am personally naive to some of that as well. I know that it's an aggregate of a lot of different sources, and the same kind of sources that a lot of those companies will either provide or benefit from. So moving companies, heavily tied to utility companies. So when utilities get activated or deactivated, there's triggering things like that go to different data companies. And I do know that we pull from a source of different companies, aggregate it together. So it's not perfect. There's things that slip through the cracks sometimes, and we know that. But there really is not a perfect, maybe not a more perfect source or option out there. But yeah, Ryan, it's a really good question. I maybe would encourage you to even email me, and I could dig around more intelligently into, talk to our production guy and see exactly where that comes from. Randy, these costs include the actual mailing postage fees. Yes, that's correct, Randy. Daniel, yeah, and I want to clarify that too. Make sure that that's clear to everybody. This is a totally one-stop shop. You press add to cart and you check out, and you can be hands-off, and these will get into mailboxes. How accurate do your lists tend to be? I bought a list from a different company for a single mailing a couple months ago for VBS, and about 20% of the postcards came back as undeliverable. I think that's a pretty bad percentage. I know that it's better than that. I couldn't tell you. Yeah, that's Daniel. Back to even, Randy's question, these costs include the actual mailing and postage fees. What we'd love to communicate with people is that whether you're doing a new mover mailing program subscription or work with us to do a one-time, event-based direct mail campaign, that's just a one-time thing. This is everything. Like, you can go through us, do the whole process, and it'll get into mailboxes. A lot of times people think like, maybe it'll be cheaper I can get the list from a data company and then, have a pizza party and have a bunch of people over and address hundreds or thousands of postcards and then go send it out and pay for postage yourself. We just find that almost always it's just worth it to, do a one-stop shop company like ours, and it kind of all, it's all taken care of for you. Do you return undeliverables come back to us or to you? That's actually a good question, and I'm not sure the answer to that, Randy. I don't think they go to you. Not sure if someone else on the team knows that better than I do. but I don't think they go to you. I want to say they go to the post office, and yeah, I'm not sure. These are such good questions, everybody. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything there. And feel free to continue, dropping questions in there. Feel free to unmute and talk as well. Do you return to the list? Would we be notified with the list you send us? Randy, do you mean notified that some have been undeliverable, or notified of who they're going to? Yes, okay, that they're undeliverable. That's also a good question, and I'm not sure. I want to say that we would be notified and could notify you. Josh says, I was a bit late coming into the webinar. Is this using our existing flyer design, etc.? Josh, great question. You can submit your own design, or you can pick from any of our designs. If it's an existing design that you have, we have a team of designers that would just help you and work with you to make sure all the specs are right and the template, kind of it fits within our template. Is there savings for uploading your own design rather than utilizing a template? Here, let me walk through that one more time. So if you go next step, if you just, pick one of these, choose this design, next step. Postcard emails, blah, 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 setup fee, add to cart. It is the same. And a caveat to that too, as you continue, a lot of people, maybe you want to update the design or change it throughout the year. And I totally recommend that. Like if Christmas is coming up, you might think in like September or October, hey, let's change our monthly design so that it's a little more Christmas focused. When you want to change, there is just a change fee of $29.95, so about $30 for when you want to change it. But as far as savings for either uploading rather than utilizing a template, it's all the same for the subscription. Randy said with a note just to keep the list clean. Yeah, great point, Randy. And there is, for what it's worth too, there is constant sort of maintenance of the lists. You can rest semi-assured that there is constant maintenance of the lists happening just from our data companies, month after month. And honestly, the thing that one of the things that's helpful that we see is just some of our customers who are on this service regularly, if they hear of anything, or if they know, hey, this got delivered to a person who's lived there for 12 months, there's something wrong with the data, just let us know about that, and we help you with that. And we give it an account manager when we make changes directly work with regularly. Yes, that's correct, Randy. Yeah, any customer of outreach, you're kind of assigned a person. So a person on my team or some of the other teams here will kind of be your go-to, and you can call them, email them anytime. I give my cell phone number out pretty freely to everybody that I work with, and just say, shoot me a text, give me a call. Like if anything is ever coming up, we really do try our best, Randy, to very much partner with you guys, and as much as we can to kind of feel like we are like on your team. Like we really want your church to win. We want your team to succeed. So we'll try our absolute best just to be as responsive as possible. Yeah, and to help you out with any of those questions as it comes. From the time we start, what's the turnaround? So thank you, Randy. A good thing I didn't clarify before, there's important dates basically every month, whether you want to sign up or whether you want to cancel or whether you want to make a change. And that window is usually basically between around the 7th of the month and around the 14th of the month. There's some wiggle room in both of those that happen month to month, but ballpark in that general window of time. That's the window of signing up and getting a proof approved so that it's ready to go. That's the window to change your design for the following month, or that's the window to cancel before you're already charged and the cards are sent for the next month. So that, if we look at it, September 18th, the window's gone for these to hit October. At this point, if you're wanting these to hit in November, let's start having conversations, reach out to a team member, and start working on what you want your map to look like, what you want your design to look like. And then let's make sure sometime within that first and second week of October, we are finalizing it, approving the proofs, and paying for it. And then the cards will start hitting in November. So in real time right now, it's a great time to start thinking about this as a strategy for Christmas, especially as new people continue to move into your area. Maybe they're looking for a place to worship for Christmas. And beyond that, just to iterate, there's no contract or commitment other than that. Like if you want to cancel, but you missed the deadline the month before, there's nothing we can really do for that because we've already paid for the data. We've already paid and processed the work to get it out for the following month. But other than that caveat, you can cancel anytime. It's not a year subscription or anything like that. So no commitment, cancel anytime, change anytime, sign up anytime. Hopefully that's helpful. These are such good questions, everybody. Thank you for engaging. A physical example of the cards just to see the quality. Yes, I believe there's a way we could do that. They are, gosh, I want to say they're 9-point silk, 8.5 by 5.5, or 5.5 by 11. Either pretty. Oh, I'm sorry, it's just 8.5 by 5.5. We don't usually do the larger size for these. But yeah, let's. I'll reach out to you, Randy, and we'll figure out the best way to arrange that. I'm gonna make a note here to remember that. With that, I'll leave it open another minute or so. They're high quality, heavy cards, stock slick print. Yeah, Bob, have you had some familiarity or some experience with these? Yes. Yeah, and they are. I mean, it's true. They feel great. They look good. I have some at my house, but I'm not there right now. Nor could you feel that even if I held it up to you. So I would love for you to just be able to feel it, and it's a good feeling piece of mail too. And I think the size helps it kind of stand out a bit in the mailbox, as does the messaging. I think you get a lot of pieces of paper in your mailbox that are something about window cleaning or bills. But there's something special, I think, just about a church extending a very genuine welcome. Explain more about the postage available for nonprofits. Yes, Ceci, thank you for asking. And great to know that the prices I've shown through all of this assume nonprofit postage ratings. Something you need to know about nonprofit postage ratings is that it's a separate thing than just being a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Nonprofit postal ratings is a separate process you go through to get approved through the United States Postal Service, where they approve the fact that you're a nonprofit, and they basically let you send mail for a few cents cheaper per piece of mail than would otherwise be the case. I want to say that for-profit rates on new movers are 99 cents per card. If that's wrong, someone on the team just correct that. So let me go here. 79 cents per card with nonprofits. Standard rates, that's correct. That's 99 cents per card. So with nonprofit rates, this is your average cost. With standard pre-sort rates, this is your cost. It saves a significant amount of money, especially as it adds up over, over the long haul, if this is something you do for multiple months. And if you're ever someone who uses direct mail as any part of your strategy, if you're going to do a big direct mail campaign, you could be spending hundreds to thousands of dollars sending a lot of postcards. You will save, hundreds of dollars making sure you have your nonprofit postal rates. That is, if you don't already have that, I'll just say one thing about that. if you don't already have that, we can help you get that about as painlessly as possible. We have people on our team who help churches do that very thing, like all day long. So, I mean, I would email you and a teammate of mine and say, hey, you know, she's going to help you get your nonprofit approved postal rates. Setting of the nonprofit rate is up to us to set up, or is that something you do for us? Yes, just as I was saying, Randy. Ultimately, it's up to you. There's a few pieces of documentation that we can't do for you. There are things like you have to give, you know, an example of some of your articles of incorporation to the USPS. You have to present, you know, some board meeting, just some very like official kind of, you know, legal red tape feeling kind of stuff, literally just to kind of prove to USPS we are a nonprofit and we are using this mail for the sake of our nonprofit, you know, religious institution. So it's up to you, but like I said, we help you do that about as painlessly as I think is possible. Whether or not you're ever going to spend money with us on mailers, that's just something we like to help you do, just for free and just to build the relationship as well. Have you had examples of churches using this in combination with additional follow-up methods that could help effectiveness? Bob, great question. I love seeing churches. One of my favorite things I see churches do is they take the list of recipients, because again, you get emailed every month the list of names and addresses that this goes to. And then they basically get very intentional and organic with how to use that in a way to just bless the people who have just moved into town. So for example, you might get the list and give that to your small group director or your, you know, someone who's overseeing, you know, whatever neighborhood-based kind of ministries you might have going, or take it yourself and you and your friends, or you and your, you know, leaders, elders, whatever, take that list and then go, I mean, deliver flowers, like literally, to people who have just moved, or leave a fresh baked loaf of bread on their doorstep, or, you know, give it to your small groups in different areas and say, you know, hey, John and Susie, these 2 houses on your street have new families in them. Why don't you just go, just make sure you've welcomed them to the neighborhood and maybe invite them to a barbecue sometime or something like that. Legally, you're not allowed to take this list of recipients and send them mail. We have to say that. But you can take it and just think about other ways to really extend a very intentional, you know, just acknowledgement that they're here and they're new and they could use, you know, a touch point from a church. So really, it's just, you know, how to utilize that list, that intel, that insight in a way that is going to really bless those people who have just moved in. And the sky is kind of the limit. I mean, you know, use your imagination on how you could use that to welcome those people in. Okay, well, I want to go ahead and kind of call our meeting to a close here. I just want to close by praying for you all. I'll stop sharing my screen here. And I just want to say a quick prayer and just kind of bless you guys as you go. But then I have plenty of time. I'll hang out here if anybody has any more questions or even just wants to stay on and chat about any of this. I'll hang out. Maybe a few of the other team members will as well. But with all that being said, I just want to say again, I'm so grateful for you, for the work and the ministry that you're doing through and with your local church, wherever you're at in the country. And with that, let me just pray for you and we will say goodbye. Lord, thank you so much for today. Thank you for these moments we've shared, talking through just one of many tools that we can keep in our toolbox to reach people in our community for you. I pray, Lord, that something from this time would be really helpful to somebody, either helping them know that this is a good thing for them, or helping them know that maybe it's not the right strategy for them right now. Either way, I just pray that, Lord, these people would understand a bit more about what this tool is and what it could be. And overall, Lord, would you just bless these men and women who are faithfully serving in their local churches? God, would you give them great encouragement? Would they go, even from this call, feeling a sense of wind in their sails, knowing that there's people all over the country who are trying to reach people with the gospel just the same way that they are? So Lord, would you bless it? I pray that you might even use this tool through many, many local congregations to reach people who otherwise maybe would not be reached. So Lord, work powerfully through them and give them great joy and just a sense of refreshing today. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay.